Good evening, everyone, and thanks for attending. Welcome to our fourth, Tev, is it fourth or fifth?
It's the fourth.
Our fourth Forward Trust Enterprise Club. I mean, for us, this is a lovely way for us to finish this financial year. We've had quite a successful year of our enterprise clubs, and if any of you have got time, we've got a YouTube channel where you can watch some of our past events there too. But welcome to coming to this one too. For those that don't know me, and I'm sure you know me now, my name's Stephen Anderson. I'm the enterprise coach at the Forward Trust. And can I introduce our other two members, Tev first and then Simon? Give us a little wave and a little one-liner.
Hello, one-liner, me, Stephen, you're crazy, aren't you? So, hello, everyone, good afternoon. I'm Tev. I manage the enterprise support here at Forward Trust. And as Stephen said, what a lovely way to finish off the financial year. Hope you will enjoy the event today. Special welcome to our guests, Julia and Marie-Claire, but they'll introduce themselves in a moment. And just keep an eye out for all the stuff going on in the chat function. I'll be posting email addresses and everything else. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy the event and welcome to you all once again. Thank you.
Thanks, Tev. Simon?
Yeah, hi everybody. I had a really brief introduction before, but it's good to kind of meet you and connect with you all. This is the first kind of enterprise club that I've joined, so I'm really excited to see how, the format and kind of see how you guys operate here. Some really cool businesses, and I can see the chat's already filling up with some kind of good networking stuff going there too. So brilliant.
Great. Thanks, Simon. Right. I think what promises to be a very exciting, informative, and inspiring presentation from our two speakers to come. Let me just at this stage here, let me give you a little background to the club and why we developed it. The Forward Enterprise Club was launched back in November, but due to COVID and lockdown, we had to pause these events for a while. So I'm really happy to say that we're re-energizing the events, and hopefully we'll have, in the future, we'll have both online and physical events. And that's what we really look forward to. I mean, the club itself is a peer-led club. And what I mean by that is that the forward enterprise service clients and beneficiaries. We hold these events every quarter, and we have different guest speakers dealing with different subjects and topics regarding entrepreneurship and looking at the world of business and from a startup perspective. And that's the sort of focus on this club. As you'll see from today, we have two very special female entrepreneurs. And by the way, today's event is looking at women in enterprise, and it is part of the Women's Month for events and things. And this is the Forward Trust's Enterprises contribution. And me and Tev had a really good brainstorm, and we're really pleased that we really got two very interesting and enthusiastic speakers today, and really pleased about that. So thanks for that. Right. As Tev said, both our speakers, Julia and Marie, they'll introduce themselves in a little while. But I thought what I'll do is, I've done some research on female entrepreneurship, and I came up with some very interesting facts that I thought I'll just share with the audience there. And this is really just to stimulate some thinking. Right, here's some basic facts I've sort of come up with. 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs is female. The gender equivalent of 1.1 million missing businesses in the economy. So that's quite interesting. 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs is female. Something, food for thought there. In 2017, only 5.6 of UK women ran their own business, compared, and that's 5.6% in the UK compared to 15% in Canada and 11% in America and 9% in Australia. So it seems that, you know, there's a lot more work that the government needs to do to encourage female entrepreneurship compared to what's happening in other countries. And, you know, Canada is quite a beacon, from what I remember, of different entrepreneurial activities from a female perspective. It's quite interesting. Self-employment, self-employed women are the majority of the newly self-employed. The increase in the number of women in the UK becoming self-employed is unprecedented and is very welcoming. Historically, this has jumped 58% over the previous year. So there's a large impetus in women becoming self-employed. And just a couple more facts here. There are almost 1.5 million self-employed. There are now 1.5 million self-employed, which represents an increase of 300,000 since the economic downturn. So since COVID has come, there's been a dramatic increase in women starting their own business. And a final point here, up to 250 billion is added to the, would be added to the economy if women started and scaled new businesses at the same rate as UK men. So 250 billion would be added to the economy if there was a major push in women starting at the same rate as men. Before we get on to poll questions, anyone had any comments on those statistics? Anything jumps to mind?
Obviously, things are improving. Perhaps not at the rate that we would like them, but it's certain the statistics suggest that more and more females are now looking at self-employment and entrepreneurship as a way to, you know, further their careers. So that's what I take from that. But obviously, that's part of the purpose why we're holding this particular event with this particular theme. It's to do our bit in terms of business startup support and encourage as many female entrepreneurs to look at starting their business as possible. So I think on the right track, but still lots of work to do. Don't know what anyone else thinks.
I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of providing childcare. I think that's the main stumbling block to women in business, because we have those extra, you know, I'm not saying that men don't, but we do have those concerns outside of business, and unless there are the childcare places, unless there's provision, we're at immediate disadvantage.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. And I also think the benefits trap is a real thing that exists, that I've actually been in.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense, even when you've got your own business, to take money out of that business to kind of replace what the benefit system has been giving you. It's just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So yeah, really interesting stuff.
From another point that I draw from Stephen's facts is maybe we need to look at, you know, the trailblazing countries such as Canada to see what they're doing and kind of, you know, use that as an example to kind of lobby government and various other, you know, support organizations that exist to try and encourage as many females as we can into entrepreneurship. Not sure how that would work, but I mean, does anybody have any ideas about things that we could do apart from childcare that could be done to encourage more and more women into entrepreneurship? This question is in particular to our guests, but anybody feel free to you know, put your point across.
I think the way that women source information is a lot different to the way that men do. I think women are a bit more, we lack self-confidence, I think, on the whole, to go out and get the information. I think men are find it much easier to resource the information. So they'll ask somebody at the rugby club or the football club or whatever, huge generalization, but and they'll get the answer, whereas women don't have that sort of pool of resources necessarily.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think inspiration, it's the same with race, and not seeing people of colour in positions of power enough to inspire young Black men, for example, to go and be university professors, because they just don't see that in their real everyday life, so they don't feel that that's attainable for them. And I think it's the same sometimes for women. For me personally, especially with my background, it took for me to see a woman that I really was really relatable to me, in terms of she was a role model. She mimicked a lot of my sort of history, and she was in a position of power, and it was seeing her that made me think, well, I can do that. And here we are today.
Cool.
Great. Thank you guys for those thoughts, actually. Thank you. Right. The poll questions were, what do you feel is the most important challenge for women entrepreneurs in the UK at this present moment? And there's 4 areas that I came up with: equal access to funding, sexism, lack of mentors, a balance in childcare issues. Are you seeing them coming through, Tev?
I am indeed, yeah. We've got 3 or 4 who say childcare. H says lack of mentors. And Val mentions sexism.
Thanks for participating in that poll. If we've got some time, I'll run the next one. But I think at this stage, and watching the time, we're going to our first speaker, which is Julia.
Hi everybody, my name's Julia Narpor and I'm a business coach, as you can see. And I thought I'd share today sort of 6 lessons that I've learned about running businesses over sort of 30 years of my experience in doing so. So just a little bit of information about me. I'm a holistic business coach. I integrate energy work, specifically Reiki, Seichem and shamanic healing with business coaching. It sounds all very out there and very woo-woo, but it really isn't. It's just another tool that I use alongside the practical tools that you'd expect from a business coach. I've got 25 years-ish of experience within sort of corporate roles. For 10 years, I was the marketing director of a multi-million-pound publishing company. I'll talk about that in just a mo. And I worked out the other day that I've got experience of, I think, about 30 different sectors or industries, everything from professional practices, legal, accountancy, right through to mail order gift companies and coffee merchants. So quite a varied experience. And I've owned and run businesses both here and in New Zealand. And currently I work as a business coach, business and executive coach, and I support 3 different strands of people: those that are starting up in business and want to get it right the first time and avoid a few of the potholes along the way; those that are looking to scale or grow their business, dealing with overwhelm, dealing with the mindset blocks and the other blocks that we put in the way of our own success often, and working with senior executives in the sort of more meaty organizations and dealing with the challenges that they face around leadership, etc. So the first of the 6 lessons that I was going to talk to you about was being defined by others. Now I've shared 3 pictures. I have to admit the bottom picture of me in the school, they're obviously all me. Me in the school uniform, I only put that there so for a laugh, so you could laugh at me, because that's the one time that my mum cut my fringe, and I think we can see exactly.
You haven't changed a bit, Julia. You haven't changed a bit.
Same hairstyle, I know. So when you see, well, I've been talking for what, minute and a half, and you will already have made a judgment about me. Because we do, it takes on average, I think 7 seconds for us to form an opinion of somebody. And you see that family photo there on the right, that's me, obviously the little, as we say in the West Country, little tacker, next to my brother with the ginger hair, the ginger ninja, and my parents behind me, and my cousins and aunt and uncle on the left-hand side. So white middle-class family. But by the time I was 3 years old, which is the picture on the left, I'd learned that my job in life was to keep the peace, to be a pacifier, to be a good girl. I was academic, and I was left to do that because that's what I was, here to do. I was supposed to be invisible. I was unheard, and I didn't really have any value. For most of my years, up until I was probably 40 something, I felt like a black sheep in my family. And I was defined for the whole of my, for the majority of my adult life by those beliefs. And you'll see as I sort of go through my business journey, how they've informed some of the actions and the things that I've done and the beliefs that I've had. And the first thing they did, those beliefs, were to inform my first role. So when I left school, I studied law because that was what was expected. And I ended up working for a local solicitor's practice. At the time, they were the biggest practice in the Southwest. And I was hugely bullied, really relentlessly bullied by my boss. There was one boss who was sexually harassing every single female. The other one decided to bully me. I don't know why. I think my face didn't quite fit. And so I was there for 2 years. Within 6 weeks of starting the role, I was looking for another job. Couldn't get a job because I'd lost all my self-confidence. That depleted my confidence further. Couldn't get it. And I was in that sort of cycle. I went from second to second, literally every day, not knowing quite how I was going to be treated. 1 minute I could be flavour of the month, and the next he'd be up this close to me, sort of spitting in my face and verbally and sometimes physically abusing me. And I went to my parents and I said to them, look, this is going on. And they said, no, it's not as bad as you're making out. You need to stick it out because the end goal is in sight. But actually it was as bad as I made out. And so after 2 years, I left. And I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have another job because I couldn't get another job. I hadn't got any self-confidence, so I didn't believe I was worth anything. And I didn't quite know where I was going to go. So I thought, I know, I'm going to set up in business. Now, it wasn't that much of a stretch, if you like, for me. I didn't feel quite as much fear in doing that as some might fear because my parents were self-employed. They had a business. And so I set up my business. I was 23 and I thought naively that it was going to be, stroll in the park and everything was going to be fine and dandy. Of course it wasn't. And there were challenges, but I learned very quickly. Fast forward a few years, there's an awful lot of fast forwarding in this presentation because we don't have all day. But fast forward, and I was a single parent. My marriage had broken up. And I got 2 kids. And I'd spent some time at home looking after my children. My daughter had some special educational needs. But once they went to school, I obviously financially above anything else needed to work. And again, I was in that situation of, well, what the heck do I do now? So my parents came along and they said, well, we're looking to sell the business. We need somebody to develop our marketing department so that it improves the bottom line of the business. So in my 30 whatever I was years of wisdom, I thought, yeah, I can do that. So I agreed it was going to be a 6-month gig. Fine, it'll get me back out, get me back used to work, and I can, get a job after that. So I went in to their business and started working for them. But yet again, I was defined by others because as I walked through the door on the first day, and I have to say largely female workforce, had one comment, and it was, well, it's all right for her because she's the boss's daughter. It's all right for her because she hasn't got to work. She's, it's all been handed to her. And that really wasn't the truth. It's really common amongst, in my experience, amongst family-owned businesses, that sort of assumption that everything's fine and dandy and you get a cushy deal, but it really doesn't happen. Because what you do is you tend to end up working harder to prove yourself, working harder to show them that that definition, the way, the judgment that they've made about you is not true. And so by day I was working full time. And then at night, once the kids went to bed, I was studying. I bought every single degree level marketing book that I could find, and I studied and I learned my craft, I learned my trade. And that 6-month temporary gig turned into 10 years, would you believe? By which time I'd worked my way up to director, I'd grown the department to 4, and I'd increased sales year on year. And yet still I was defined by those people as, well, it's all right for her, just the boss's daughter. So we come on to the second lesson, which is knowing your worth. So I had that 10 years of marketing experience, and I'd fast forward again a little bit, but I'd remarried, and my husband is, I'm still married to him. My husband is from New Zealand, he's Maori, and we decided that we'd emigrate to New Zealand. He'd been over here and in Europe for quite some time, had the whole pull of his heritage behind him, his family sort of calling him back. So we decided we'd up sticks and we'd go to New Zealand. And we moved to New Zealand, and we bought a rundown cafe. He's a chef, so he was going to do the front of house stuff, the menu planning and the food production, cooking, and I do the back office stuff. Well, when I say that it was a rundown business, it really, really was rundown. The building was tired. The owner was a little old lady, and by golly, she was tired. There were more mice actually than there were customers at that stage. They were running all over the floor while people were trying to eat their food. I mean, health and safety would have had food hygiene would have had a nightmare. There were cockroaches. When we took over, there were no records. I opened the filing cabinet. There were no records there, nothing, no files at all. So we didn't know who the staff were. We didn't know what we had to pay, nothing. And on the first day, their phone rang, and it was the Ministry of Justice saying that one of our employees had not been paying their fines. So it was a huge learning curve, not least because the workforce was largely Maori and Pacific Islanders. And part of their culture, there was me naively thinking that, because they spoke English, it would be pretty much the same as it is in the UK. Of course, it's not. We got to the busiest, the high season, summer, and our staff disappeared because that's their culture. They go off on sort of walkabout for 6 weeks every so often when they feel like it, and then sort of come back and expect their job to still be there. But of course, we don't tend to do that in the UK. So I had to learn really, really fast. But when I came back, we then moved back to the UK because of some family illness. And when I came back, I thought, well, what am I going to do now? Another crossroads. I know, I'll start my own business. But I didn't take into account that 10 years of marketing experience at quite a senior level. I didn't take into account the building up of that tired, rundown cafe to an award-winning cafe in the end. I thought, well, what can I do? People aren't going to pay me for marketing, to do their marketing for them or their social media for them. People won't pay for that. They won't pay for me to do it. So I know I'll do admin. I'll be a VA. So I set up as a virtual assistant. I hated admin. I'm not very good at it. I don't know really how to do a spreadsheet, and my typing is rubbish. But that's what I thought I'd do. And it took me so long of working with crappy clients that didn't understand my worth, didn't value me, for me to realize that sort of work didn't float my boat, and I got to go into work that actually I did enjoy, because you're a long time working. So I rebranded, set up as a social media and marketing consultant, and ran that business until January of this year when I sold it. But the magic that happens when you know your worth, I've written some of the examples, the 8 boxes on the screen. There is real magic when you know your worth, because you start to build your confidence in yourself, and you're able to work out who it is that aligns with your values and who you want to work with. And you're much stronger to say, no, sorry, you need to find somebody else to work with. So it's really, really valuable lesson that I learned. The third lesson is a marketing lesson, and it always makes me laugh, that phrase, sell the sizzle, not the sausage. But it's a very valuable lesson to learn that I've learned in business. I struggled from being that little 3-year-old kid who was invisible. Visibility has obviously been a huge thing for me. And being able to present as I am today, or present in front of people, has been a really hard lesson to learn. I've had to have a lot of training on it to be able to overcome the fears that I have from that little girl. But when we want to run a business, we've got to be visible. We've got to put ourselves out there, because nobody's psychic, or very few people are psychic and can automatically, see us. We've got to be there, visible, be present, and set our stall out and show what we have to offer. Now, consumers generally buy with emotion, and then they back that up with logic. So it's really important that we tell people how we can help them. We play into those emotions. Everybody comes to the internet with one thought in mind, and that is, what's in it for me? And we've got to translate, we've got to communicate to them what the benefit of working with us is. And our story is key. And yet so many of us are reticent in telling our story. I never talk about my family. I never talk about my backstory. So I allow people to make that judgment before I've even started. Lesson 4, don't expect a super highway. Scenic route is always better. I work with business owners who expect that, for example, after one coaching session, they're going to have all the answers to all of their life's problems or business problems. And, they're going to get from A to where they want to be, point B, overnight. I don't know who it was who said that overnight success takes about 15 years, but I think they were right. And the scenic route, in this case, the small business journey, is very bumpy. It's full of potholes and challenges along the way. But what keeps you going during those times is your why. Why are you in business? Why do you do what you do? And I have 3 whys. One of them is my children. I want to make my 2 kids proud of me. The second one is that I want to show that little 3-year-old girl that she is visible, and that she is valuable, and that she's worthwhile. And the third is that I want to help other people, other small business owners, to avoid some of those pitfalls, or potholes that I've encountered along the way, and to share my experience with them so that they don't have to make them. 5th lesson, build your vision one step at a time. Very often it ties in with the last point. We're really impatient. We want to get there. And so we focus on that big goal and don't think about the small steps along the way. But what happens then is that we get overwhelmed. So we need to identify our goals, and those goals need to be just a little bit scary, but not too scary, just enough to sort of stretch us out of our comfort zone. But we need to start small so that we don't do too much at one time, but we also need to celebrate every achievement. If you've ever sort of looked back at what you've achieved, ever made a note of what you've achieved over a course of a year, say, you'll be surprised at the amount that you forget. So very often I advise clients to keep what I call a win tin. Generally it's a jar, and every single thing that goes right, whether it's, that they've posted for a week consistently on social media, or they've met a useful connection, or they've managed a presentation without fluffing what they want to say. They write it on a little post-it note piece of paper and they put it in there. And then at the end of the year, they can empty it out and see all the little wins, all the little gains that have made up that year's journey for them, because we forget the little bits. And then the last lesson, the lesson that's been hardest for me to learn, is that it's okay to be you. It's okay to stand in your uniqueness and to not be defined by everybody, to realize that you have value, to celebrate your value, and to be brave enough to be visible. So that's me done. I've got some resources on my website for starting and growing a business. If anybody's interested in those, they're totally free. If not, please connect with me on the usual socials. Thank you.
You know, when someone's given a presentation and then you just exhale after, I think it's an exhale moment. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Julia before we move to Marie Claire?
Yeah.
For anybody?
Yes. Hello there.
Hi, Keisha.
Hello there. Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing your presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wanted to ask you a question because you said something that reminded about myself, where I don't particularly like to talk about myself. How did you get over that hurdle? What is it that you did?
I think it comes back to self-worth. You know, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. And one thing about LinkedIn is that you see over and over again, people telling their stories of the, you know, adversity that they've faced. And I think you realize that actually when you've got some value, when you're confident in yourself, you realize that your story is as valuable as anybody else's. And it also helps to build that relatability, because somebody, like you've just demonstrated, something in your story will make somebody else just connect with you. That shared piece of the story, piece of the jigsaw. So practically, I think it's just confidence and actually not giving a doodah about what other people think. Because you can't control what other people think, you can only control your own thoughts. So just be brave, just tell your story, and you'll find that it will resonate with the right people.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marie Claire, the floor is yours. Great.
So yeah, obviously, here to talk about business and entrepreneurship and women in entrepreneurship. I was really quite infused by some of the stats that Stephen mentioned. I mean, 33.33% of new entrepreneurs being women is a lot better than, I think it was the 20-80 split that I've always heard about, which is that 80% of CEOs are men and 20% are women, which kind of has always felt about accurate to me in terms of the networking events and stuff that I've attended. But then, so being a woman, I think, has its disadvantages and also probably some advantages in some ways. But there's also other disadvantages, I think, that people have to overcome, especially in the world of work. And one of the things that I'm here to do today is talk a little bit about my background and how I got to where I am, in terms of my not-for-profit organisation that I set up and run and have run for the last 7 years, which employs sort of 7 people now, I think we're up to. And we've helped well over 1,000 service users to kind of turn their lives around. So this is I love this mantra. Nelson Mandela, obviously one of the greatest leaders of all time and freedom fighters, but he said a lot of profound things. This is one of the profound things that sticks out for me, which is to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. And I think that's true whether you're a woman and you get into a position of power, and then you have a duty to help other people climb the ladder, a hand up rather than a hand out, that kind of mentality. And it's similar with the clients that we work with. We believe in empowering people so that they can what's that other saying that I love so much? Teach a man, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, you know, he'll eat for life. So yeah, before we get into a bit about my background, I thought we'd play a little game. So I'm going to read out some statements, and if you've got a pen and some paper next to you, I just want you to jot down whether you think A, B, C, D or E are the answers to the questions. There could be more than one answer, and then I'll just contextualise it for you afterwards before I give you a brief rundown of my sort of history. So who out of the 5 do you think looks like a single parent? Don't overthink it. It's just about your split-second judgments, as Julia mentioned. Who looks like a single parent? Question 2, who looks like a business owner? Who looks like they've run their own business? Question 3, who looks like they volunteer their time? So who volunteers their time for free? Question 4, who looks like they were a victim of knife crime? Not a perpetrator, a victim of knife crime. Question 5 is who do you think looks like they might be on life licence? So life licence is when people have to report to probation for the rest of their life. So it would be for a serious violent offence. Who looks like they're on life licence? Question 6 is who can't work with children? Out of the 5, do you think? Gut instinct. Question 7 is who looks like they were adopted? Who was given up for adoption at birth? And question 8 is who looks like they had their baby in prison? Who had their baby whilst they were in custody? Question 9, who rides motorbikes? So who do you think looks like a motorcyclist, or more than one, maybe? Question 10 is who looks like they stole from a church? Controversial. Question 11, who looks like they are degree educated? Who has got a degree? And the final question, question 12, is who looks like they've never been to prison? So who out of the 5 has never been to prison? Okay, we'll just contextualise that then quickly, and you can give yourself 1 point for every right answer, and we'll see if there's any winners, even though I said it wasn't competitive. We'll just do a little competition, mini competition. So question 1, who's the single parent? And if you answered A, B, C, if you answered A, B or C, you'd be correct and you'd win a point for each of those. Who's a business owner? The answer's A, runs his own roofing company. C is myself.
What company, sorry, MC?
Roofing company. So he's got his own roofing business. Question C, C is me, in case you hadn't realised, when I was a brunette a few years ago, I obviously run New Leaf and set up New Leaf. D had his own accountancy business. And E has his own audio-visual company working for Apple and Google, places like that. Who looks like they're a volunteer? So B was a volunteer for me. She was my first ever volunteer, despite working full-time as a doctor's receptionist. I was a volunteer for a good sort of, I'd say 3.5 years, for a variety of charity, including my own. And D also volunteered his time. Who looks like they were a victim of knife crime then? The answer's myself. So I was knifed when I was 15 at school by a friend of mine, completely unprovoked attack. And E was also knifed, breaking up a fight coming out of a nightclub, a fight that was nothing to do with him, and the white guy turned around and slashed him from the top of his head down to the side of his cheek. So he's got a huge scar, which obviously as a big black guy, and people tend to judge him for that and assume all sorts of things, probably first and foremost that he's a drug dealer, a gnarly drug dealer, which he isn't. Who is on life licence? The answer's A. Sean's on life licence for a violent offence. His mother, the mother of his children, was with a violent partner, and he attacked the violent partner and actually got custody of his children as a result of that, hence the single parent. Who was adopted? D. Steve was adopted at birth. And by the way, all these people and friends of mine, they've all given permission for me to do this game, just in case you were wondering. I've been doing it for years. Yeah, so Steve was adopted at birth. Who had their baby whilst they were in custody? The answer's B, Lisa. She was a young girl. In fact, what's the next question? Oh, have I skipped a question? Sorry.
So you've skipped the children who can't work with
yeah,
children.
That's what I was going to say. Sorry. So question 6 is who can't work with children? Who thinks D is the answer to that? Tev, it's always you. The answer is actually B. Lisa can't work with children. So the reason for that is when she was 19, she had a fight with a 17-year-old girl, which landed her in the criminal justice system. It took 2 years for that to go to trial, and she got a guilty verdict and a sentence. Black women are disproportionately sentenced for their first offences over white women. In fact, I think they're the most severely punished out of all ethnic groups. So yeah, she ended up going to prison for her first offence, and by which time she was pregnant with her first child. So that kind of hints at number 8, which I just said, who had their baby whilst they were in prison, is also Lisa. She saw a cockroach run across the maternity wing in the prison, and that's what sent her into labour. Her son's doing really well though. He's like 6'9", I think, and plays for Solihull Moors as a semi-professional footballer, and he's just really winning at life. Who rides motorbikes? The answer is A, rides motorbikes. C, I ride motorbikes whenever I get the chance. And E is also a motorcyclist. So question 10, who stole from a church is D. As I mentioned, he was adopted at birth. He forged a very successful life as an accountant, had his own accountancy firm, got into a bit of trouble financially, was a devout Catholic, but ended up, unfortunately, embezzling some money from the church that he supported as accountant, and the church turned their back on him and he got a sentence. Who's done a degree? Who's degree educated? Sean A. got a degree whilst in prison, and you can do that. I got my degree whilst setting up my business, so literally within a month of each other, started my degree and set up a business in 2014. As well as being a single parent. And that's it. It's just A and C who have got degrees. And the person who's never been to prison is E. Jeremy has never been to prison. He's a very law-abiding citizen. So yeah, just a bit of a fun game there. Obviously, it's meant to be a little bit disruptive and disturbing because unfortunately we all make, I'll stop sharing my screen. We all make snap-second judgments. It's kind of human nature. Julia spoke about it earlier, and we all do that, and it's probably right and proper that we do that. I'm Mary Claire. I'm the founder and CEO of New Leaf. Set it up 7 years ago, as I mentioned. Had no intention of working in criminal justice, but as you will have gathered from the last slide, I have been in touch with the criminal justice system, but didn't have a typical journey into that really. Had a very blessed childhood, working family, holiday every year. You know, I was very kind of lucky and blessed. White privilege, probably a lot of that going on. And yeah, then my parents split when I was 15. That was the same year I got knifed at school by one of my close friends. So kind of a lot of trauma rocking around age 15, but bounced back, had a lot of resilience, a lot of positive factors in my life that kind of allowed me to be resilient, or helped me to be resilient. And I lived with my dad from the age of 15 when my parents split, and everything was great. I went into the world of work, and I was in admin and sales and those kind of jobs, and doing exceptionally well at the Bachelor. So even when I was 19, I was like top 3 negotiator for Dixon's countrywide estate agent, company car, £3 a month take home. Life was good. Got promoted, and then my father got diagnosed with terminal lung cancer when I was 19, and it was terminal, and obviously I was the only person kind of around to care for him because his family had gone back to Ireland. So that's what I did really, and there's very little to say about it other than it was a horrendous experience for both him and I. He died at home, looking into my eyes, which was beautiful, but also very, very traumatic and scarring. And yeah, life as I knew it ended, as it does for many of us around bereavement and loss and death. And it really knocked my socks off and sent me into a bit of a downward spiral, whereby I stopped kind of being an overachiever, which I'd always been, and just became a bit of a depressed, dark, angry person, I think, at the world. Started lap dancing, started taking copious amounts of recreational drugs. Speaking quietly, yes. And just generally going off the rails big time, probably as big time as you can imagine. And I did that for about 2.5 years. Chaotic lifestyle, tried to take over a mortgage, and just the financial pressures really that were on top of the bereavement just drowned myself and my brother, as you can imagine. My brother was living with me at the time, and he's 18, he was 18 at the time. So yeah, just really struggled, I think, as a kid, and then robbing Peter to pay Paul, you know, making bad chaotic decisions. There were a few sort of low-level offences that went on back then, such as driving without insurance and MOT and stuff like that, because I was trying to, I was still trying to stay on the straight and narrow, just not doing it very successfully. So yeah, a few low-level offences, and then my main offence was I had a car crash drink driving, which unfortunately led to the death of my friend, which was just catastrophic in terms of impact and lasting effect really for everyone involved. So went to prison for that, and rightly so, and did a lot of therapy, and that was like 15 years ago. So yeah, you know, 15 years ago, did a lot of work on myself, and I've maintained that to this day actually. And I'm a big advocate for doing the work on yourself, doing that inner work, because it's the hardest work you'll ever do, but it's also the most rewarding, and I think it's just beneficial for everybody in your life, not just you, like all your relationships and stuff like that. So definitely an advocate of therapy and counselling and all the things that I've been really lucky to tap into on my journey, that are definitely the reason why I am the way I am today, and not like many of the people that are still in the criminal justice system, addicted to crack and heroin, which was a definite possibility for me at one point in terms of guilt and shame. But luckily I didn't go down that route, because I had a lot of family support, you know, financial support around me. I was one of the lucky ones. So yeah, oh, no worries. Sorry, I just saw a little chat message come up. Yeah, I'm always probably honest, probably a little bit too honest. I think it's a condition of being an ex-offender, is that I feel the need to overshare, probably, in terms of being accountable for my background and where I am today, because obviously it's been instrumental and defining in terms of the work that I do and the career that I've carved for myself, and the people that we help. So yeah, unlike most people in prison, I had a very different support network around me that definitely saw me through. And what I got to see though was that most women don't have that. Like most people in prison, most of the 82,000 people don't have that kind of support network around them, and don't have the education that I had, and don't have money going into their personal accounts and stuff like that. So it was pretty eye-opening. Definitely turned me, I think, from more of a Tory thinker to a socialist, and reignited my socialist roots, my activist, and my, you know, sense of injustice. Not about myself, because actually I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be when I was in custody. But for a lot of the women that were there, I didn't feel like it's the place that they needed to be, given the severity of my crime and the lack of severity of their crimes often. So yeah, but came out of there and had no intention of working in it. I was like, oh no, it's far too dark and traumatic for me. I couldn't wait to get away from the whole experience and try to build a different, better, more productive pro-social life, if you like. And a variety of things happened. My partner, who I'd met just after the crash, waited for me the whole time, and we built a business together, and and he kind of really gave me the knowledge. I think he was my inspiration. He gave me a lot of the business knowledge that I needed in terms of networking and how to get something off the ground, how to start a business. And I did the same thing. I managed to approach the Prince's Trust, because I think at that time I was 28, 29. And I got some funding to set up a virtual office in Birmingham. It was only like £3,500, but I got it off the ground and we were turning over a decent profit. And then I got pregnant with my son, which is why the childcare issue is so interesting to me, because I was then, it was then expected of me to be a stay-at-home mom. That's what my partner's family wanted. And I was kind of like, oh, I should really be grateful for this opportunity, and just kind of went with the flow and closed my business. And this life of being a stay-at-home mom ensued that was really probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, even more so than prison in a lot of ways, because it was a different kind of hard. It was like the same thing again. And I loved my child. I loved being at home with him for 2.5 years. I was really grateful for that, but also it was really hard. So yeah, and there was obviously a lot of internal demons going on at the time as well, probably, which made it a bit harder. But yeah, 2.5 years of de-skilling myself, of being a stay-at-home mum, of looking at the walls, of looking after a man who had his own business and nurturing him and the business that he was growing for our family. And then we split up, and I was kind of left on benefits with a small child who was under 3, and really at another crossroads where I didn't know what I wanted to do. Did I want to go back into sales, which was really well paid, or did I want to do something a bit more satisfying for my soul and the activist that had kind of reawakened in me? And I decided, well, I didn't decide anything. The universe decided for me, as it always does. And a volunteering opportunity fell on my lap, and I followed that. Ended up working for that charity for about a year, and just really growing in confidence, was mentioned earlier. Massively grew in confidence. I mean, when I went to them, I didn't think they'd want to know me because of obviously what I'd done. And it was the opposite. It was mentoring women in prison, and they were like, you're exactly the person that we want to want to work with us, because the women will relate to you, and your rehabilitation in action, it's so powerful. So yeah, kind of went down that path, and was really shocked at how mentoring and coaching, because I've got a level 5 coaching and mentoring qualification from Warwick Uni, how powerful that is as a mechanism, and how it really does grow and develop people, whether they're in a corporate environment, I'd imagine, but especially for people that are kind of coming out of the criminal justice system. It's a really powerful mechanism. And part of the reason why it's so powerful, I'll just share my screen again, is mimesis. I did a lot of research on this for my dissertation, which I got a first in, by the way, so that was really good. Oh. Because something that Julia mentioned earlier that I slightly disagreed with was just the smaller goals. I think that's what people were scared of with me when I said I'm going to do a degree, I'm going to start a business. I remember a few people saying it's too much, you won't be able to cope, you've got a small child, and one person believed in me and encouraged me to do it, and I did it, and I smashed, luckily, both of them. And I think it taught me an important lesson around, you can do whatever you set your mind to. I think it's more my message around that. Yeah, I do believe in achievable goals and setting goals and visualization and stuff, but I actually believe in dreaming big as well and doing what you really want to do. But this is why peer mentoring is so important. It's around mimesis. If you can see it, you believe that you can be it, and you probably will be it. It's relatable. You're relatable. It's positive identity modeling. Somebody believing in you, and an internal narrative, importantly, which identifies a more constructive and non-stigmatized role. So that's kind of a little bit about what I do. My organisation is the New Leaf Initiative, and this is some of our services that we run, from prison industry and a departure lounge contract with HMP Birmingham, where we meet every single guy coming out of prison, to education and training delivery, which I've just taken on a new tutor to support with that, our training academy development. All the way through to employer engagement, so we actually, get people into jobs, importantly. And then also big on research and policy, so we provide practical support on the ground to people that need it, people with convictions that want to change their lives, but also we feed into policy to change things at the top, with government, feeding into white papers. I recently played played a part in the prisoner apprenticeship being signed off by the Department for Education and the Secretary of State for Justice. So that was, yeah, that's the stuff that really floats my boat as well. It's kind of getting policy changed and reform, basically making things work better for people and society. I'm pretty much done. Just a few pictures to kind of visually show you some of the work that we do, because I think that's more powerful than me blabbering on for hours at a time. That's Lisa B, Lady B, in the quiz, meeting one of our guys at HMP Birmingham. Really powerful picture, I think. You know, you can imagine that guy on his own, typically coming out with his plastic bag, and just having a friendly face there that he knows he's going to be there to welcome him into the community. I think is pretty transformational at times. And then in the lower left, you'll see some of our course delivery, and that was training 9 ex-prisoners in their teaching qualification. And then at the bottom, you've got our prison industry project in HMP Hull, and a bit of mentoring going over on the right. And this is again a visual picture of some young people we've worked with and supported in their normal, you know, attire. And then once we'd managed to get them suited and booted with a partner, ready for interview with Virgin Trains, which one of them went on to win and get. Quite a few people have encouraged me to open up a Just Giving page. So I've done that, and I put it in the chat earlier, and obviously not expecting anything because I know everybody's donating to Ukraine, rightly so. But yeah, anything you can give. And the reason for the fund is we're opening a benevolent fund for our clients. Just, we run courses and stuff, but we have clients. We had one client I've got to tell you about who he was going to come to our CSCS training, but he had no clothes to wear. So obviously he didn't want to come to a 3-day training course wearing the same clothes for 3 days. So he just didn't come. But he told us about it, and we managed to sort him out with a clothing parcel. But also his trainers and socks were just soaking wet. So we gave him some trainers, but I couldn't give him any socks, and I nearly gave him my own socks, but he wouldn't want them after being on my feet, to be fair. So we're going to buy things like pants and socks for people. What was the other thing? Travel, pay for travel, because if they're getting benefits every week, they can't obviously afford a £4 day saver to come and see us sometimes. So things like that. We want to have a client benevolent fund so we can offer a few quid of support whenever it's needed to people that are trying to change their lives, basically. So yeah, anything greatly received. And I'm just going to wrap it up here, I think, because I think I've spoken for long enough, haven't I, Stephen? Do you want me off?
Yeah, no, if you can wind down now, definitely, but in a nice way.
Yeah, no problem at all. I just think visually this is everything about our service and what we try and achieve. People that have seem to have failed and, you know, like the tree, uprooted, good for nothing, probably dead as a doorpost, unable to contribute in any significant way, but the tree still wants to grow. And we kind of facilitate that growth in people that most mainstream education providers and support services will probably turn their back on. So yeah, I'm really proud of the service that not just I've created. I might have founded it, but it would have stopped. It would have died a death very early on without the right support around me and the right team. You know, from Lisa, the first volunteer, to Tev and Adam, who worked with me on a network that we created, which is having some really positive impact. And this is just our theory of change. All of it leads to long-term desistance, which is stopping committing crime, basically. And it comes from these actions, which are peer mentoring, one-to-one support, signposting to support agencies, and just being, you know what it is, more than that, in a nutshell. It's just about caring about people. Honestly, that's the best support service you can provide, is just to care about people and to, you know, to just try and help them and tap them into the right networks, because that's what we all need, whether you're an entrepreneur, you know, whether you're coming out of prison, whether you're a female entrepreneur, a male entrepreneur. Really, we all just need the right networks around us and the right help at the right time to kind of get a foothold. Some of that is around personal choice and personal autonomy, and you doing the best for yourself, doing the research, putting the hard graft in. And some of it is asking for the help that's around you. And yeah, I've been very lucky to have the right people and the right support around me. And again, these are just some of our success stories. So yeah, that's it from me.
Thank you. Thank you.
we'll leave it there. Any questions?
Yes. First of all, thank you, Mary Claire. Another inspiring journey.
Any questions for Marie Claire?
Also, I'll read it out. Maybe I can't speak. Can I ask Julie and Marie Claire, knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently when you were first starting out? Julia first.
Great question.
Oh God, that's a difficult question, isn't it? Would I have done anything differently? But at the time, yes, I probably would. But now it's all part of the learning journey, isn't it? You know, the experiences that I've had throughout life are the ones that have shaped me and informed me now. So no, I can't really say that I would change anything.
Okay. Marie Claire?
That's a really good question. It's annoying though, because on one hand, yeah, there's loads I wish I knew now, but then I think the journey is really important. That finding out knowledge at the right time, right people, right places is a thing. And you know, maybe if I'd jumped some of that and shortcutted it out, it wouldn't have paid dividends in the end, I just think. So maybe, I think the one thing that keeps popping into my head is knowing my value sooner, knowing the value of our service a bit sooner, because I think because of the guilt and the reason, one of my drivers, my only driver for doing it was to help as many people as possible in my lifetime, given what I'd done. So I think that what went with that was a lot of self-flagellation and a lot of, oh, I'm not doing it for the money, I'm doing it, and what genuinely was, I'm doing it for the right thing. But self-sacrifice only goes so far. I think that can lead to burnout. And for 3.5 years, I was in the benefits trap, and I was also in that self-sacrificing mindset. And I just wish now maybe I'd known my value a little bit more, but it is what it is. Well, it's all coming together now.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mary Claire. Just on a sidebar, because at Forward Trust, we've got a very innovative project, and one of our lead guys is on the platform here. Tom, can you at this stage here give us a little brief into Fuse, just to let the panel know, just a short little micro briefing, Tom, if that will be good. Thanks.
Sure, I can keep it really quick, Stephen. That's all good. Yeah, I think this is for people on the call, but also people who might be watching the recording. It's just an encouragement, really, for you guys to get on our new platform, which is called Fuse. It's kind of like a platform for peer support and also resources. So we've made an enterprise support community, especially for people like you guys who are trying to start a business and whatever. And on that, you can access forward resources around starting a business and that kind of thing. And you can also share kind of support with each other, questions, that kind of thing. I remember right at the start of this, someone said about a barrier for women being the struggle to kind of impart and share information with each other. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to break down with this platform. So it's somewhere, hopefully, once the community is nice and up and running and active, you just jump on there, ask a question. I've got this thing that I'm trying to do with my business. Does anyone know, anyone got any help or insight into it? And then you've got a community there who can hopefully help you out, help each other out, and hopefully network a little bit. So if you're interested in getting involved in a platform like that, it's on the web and there's a mobile app. So pretty simple. I'm just putting the link to the consent form we need to sign in the chat, but I'm aware some people might be watching this video back. So if you want to get on it, it's tinyurl.com//Fuse Enterprise. So tinyurl.com//Fuse Enterprise. If you fill in the form on there, I'll set you up with an account and I'll get you on the platform, and then you can join the community of Forward Enterprise clients on Fuse.
Thank you, Tom. Can I just add that for those who have not caught the link, for those who may be watching at a later stage, if you're interested in joining Fuse, just give a shout out to myself or Stephen or our new recruit Simon, and we'll kind of facilitate that for you. Thank you, Tom.
Excellent.
Thanks.
And would anybody like to take this opportunity to kind of introduce themselves, introduce what their intention is in terms of their business, or indeed ask a question to anybody on today's session about any kind of support that they need, or a question or anything like that. Not necessarily about yourself. This more so about your own challenges rather than Julia and Marie Claire's journeys. Just we've got some really good participants today, and it's just make use of it. So if anybody's got any questions or wants to share something about their business or whatever, now's the time. So feel free. We're not going to put hands up. Just feel free to well, Keisha, you put your hand up straight away. So let's hear from you. Hi.
Yes, hello there. Hello. The last speaker, Marie, you were very, very encouraging and inspiring. Thank you very much for sharing. I want to ask you, Marie, because my business is that I am a supportive living provider working with young people from 18 years old in supportive living. So the idea behind that is that we will support them and give them all the tools, the resources that they need as they transition into independent living. And part of that, my service users would be care leavers, prison leavers, and those who are facing homelessness. So my question to you is, Marie, how did you get involved with the prison service? Because the challenges I'm finding right now is meeting with decision makers from various local authorities and councils. That's been my biggest challenge.
Yeah, so are you thinking about a referral pathway from the prisons into your premises? Is that what you're hoping to generate?
Correct.
So it wouldn't really be the prisons that arrange the property for somebody, or the supported accommodation for somebody. It would be the probation basically. So you need to speak to probation who deal with the resettlement needs, and they work closely with the prison departments, OMU, which is Offender Management Unit. But really, we're seeing, I mean, you could talk to you all day about probation and everything that's wrong with it. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for you. It always is difficult to speak to the right people. But if you've got housing in a high need area, then you will eventually get to speak to the right people. It's just keep banging on those doors, and yeah, the right door will open. But probation more than prisons, I would speak to.
On that point, if I can interject, Keisha, as some of you know on this call, I too am an ex-offender, having spent a fair few years of my life in custody. I'm actually still on license. My license still got 11 months to go. But what I'm trying to say is I'm really, really pally, and I've got an excellent relationship with my own probation officer. We're based in Hertfordshire. If you've got any properties, or you feel that you need to have a little introduction there, Keisha, you've got my details. Contact me offline, and I'll do an introduction, because we're so great with our, I mean, Stephen knows her. She sends clients to us as well. So she's really supportive of what we do. And I'm sure that she can help in some way or another. So drop me a line later on, and I'll see if I can set you up with an introduction. Is that all right?
That's perfect. Thank you so much. It's good to talk, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed. We run these enterprise clubs quarterly. So are there any specific themes that people would like to be addressed that they'd like to tell us about? We've covered our previous event back in January was about Black and ethnic minority persons moving into self-employment. Are there any other themes that people would like to kind of explore? It doesn't necessarily need to be around the EDI agenda. It could be around a specific business theme, catering, hospitality. I don't know. Is there anything that anybody would like to see us use as a theme moving forward?
Well, for me, I would like to see more like supportive housing, social care, purely because that's where my business is.
Yeah,
okay, very
Keisha.
specific. I mean, digital training and digital implementation comes up quite a lot, and I think that's something we're going to be focusing to on the future. So keep that on your radar.
Yep. Right. I think we're pretty close to closing, Stephen. I'll hand over to you again to do the necessaries.
Yeah, well, guys, myself, Tev, Simon, we're all around, you know, emails, by phone. We really want to, we're quite passionate about enterprise, everything to do with enterprise. And I think the impact we've made in the Forward Trust speaks for itself. But we're looking to work a lot more in the future with individuals such as yourself on different projects or different things. So get on the dog and bone and give us a call, give us an email, encourage things going. But thank you for making time anyway. I think we all appreciate that too.